Three, two, one, and we're live. Sorry, we're a little bit late here, folks. Just see if we've got real-time camera going here. Yeah, we've had some technological issues the last few times, so I apologize for that. Okay, seems like we're doing okay. So, welcome to the people who tuned in today. Today I'm planning a shorter stream just because I've got some evening plans, afternoon plans. Tomorrow is still a possibility as far as things to do on the stream here on HeroQuestFans, but we are going to be talking once again about Space Crusade. And this channel and stream is not all about getting views and getting popular. It's just about sharing my views and kind of keeping people up to date on things that I'm working on. But I have noticed that the Space Crusade streams have not been very popular. That's okay. I understand that because a lot more people know about HeroQuest, especially here in the states, as far as having nostalgia for that game as opposed to like Battle Masters or Space Crusade. Although it is interesting that my Battle Masters video was actually one of the most popular on the XSC3 home of HeroQuest fans. But welcome to our viewers. We've got another TV viewer and CaxIps06. So thanks for joining us today. So thanks for your patience. And if there's any issues with the stream, please let me know as soon as possible so I can make an adjustment. But as you can see, I've got actually a new camera here today. And yeah, this is strictly low budget, but we've got our usual document camera. And then we've got this new document camera, which is a little bit different. It's like got a plastic arm, and I don't know, it's got some features I like and some I don't. But let's see. So we've got the balance lighting. Not that you care, but I thought it was interesting. It got a little zoom. So anyway, hopefully I'll be able to put that to better effect as far as these streams go. Because my goal ultimately is to do like live games. That's really what I wanted to do since the beginning. Not just show off the custom cards that I've got or talk about rule differences, although that's fun too. So if you enjoy that sort of thing, I'm glad you're here. So what I'm going to be talking about today, I have a few different things to share. So first thing is you can probably see this here in the corner. This is Terrain Crate, Starship Scenery, and again, this is not a sponsored video, so just because I mention a brand doesn't mean I, think it's the bee's knees or whatever the kids call it these days and want you to buy it. But just something that I happen to acquire online. They sell a lot of these things, and some of them I think are pretty overpriced, but basically what you get is a bunch of plastic. Well, of course, that's what you get. But I thought one thing that was missing in Space Crusade as a tabletop board game, being such a big fan of HeroQuest, and I can't get the box open, is furniture. So HeroQuest has lots of furniture that, gives the different rooms that you're traveling through some character. And I don't know why that box was so hard to open. But anyway, you've got these futuristic bits of furniture, and I thought, gee, these would be perfect for making Space Crusade a little more interesting. So I'm just gonna kind of move some things around and show you what I've got. Ideas that I was planning on here anyway. Because normally you're playing Space Crusade and you're going from room to room with your Space Marines or Eldar, or in my case, your Space Orcs. And you find a room here, and you've got your doorways. So let's zoom in on that a little bit. Whoa. Okay, I'm still getting used to that. So, okay, let's say you've entered a room like so. The real reason I got these two cameras is I had a static camera and it just wasn't that great for showing the entire board. So now I can kind of have one at each end. So you enter a room through the doorway and there's just nothing in it. Maybe there's some monsters. This is not a Space Crusade figure. This is actually, I'm using these for Battle Masters. These are Warhammer Fantasy dwarfs. And that's how much trouble I had getting them off the bases. Not these particularly, but the high elves that I was removing from their bases because they were using plastic glue. So here's the guy that I've been trying to strip paint off of. I've done a pretty good job, but there's still, you can see there's a few little bits. I think I need like a toothpick or something to scratch those off, but I was soaking him in simple green. And anyway, that's a story for another time, but that's that. So let's say you've got a guy, he enters the room and there's just nothing there. Absolutely nothing. It's just a big bunch of nothing, just big empty room. And there's no monsters in there, so no enemies. And I would allow him to search for useful equipment or usable equipment. That would be the little homebrew rule. So his action, instead of attacking, would be to search. So he uses his scanner to kind of see what's there, and then he would roll a die. And I actually put my dice in the other room, so I'm not going to run get him. But let's say he'll roll a combat die, and if he gets let's say if he's a regular character, just like a regular, not a commander, in other words, so just like a regular elf or space marine, and he searches, he would roll, and if he gets a 1, because there's only a 1 in 6 chance he'll get a 1 on one die. If he gets a 1, he gets to search for usable equipment. So I would take the list of equipment cards, because there's 8 of them for each faction, basically, per mission. And the ones that they aren't using or the ones that are used up, he can draw from those cards and get 1. Now, you could max out the equipment that you've got for that mission, but at least you could maybe get something good. The question is, will it be overpowered if I allow that or not? I don't think so, but it could add some extra fun. Is there any downside to doing it? No, except that you lose your action, so you wouldn't get to attack that turn. Well, for that character, I should say. I'm thinking any character can search, but only 1 search per faction. So let's say it's the blue guys, the Ultramarines. One of their guys could search 1 room. But then the question is, well, what if you had all 5 of them going room to room and searching? That I haven't decided yet. Like, would I allow 5 searches? Because that would be a lot of searching. Because you could have 24 rooms, I think. Or is it 12 rooms? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 there. Each of these, because there's the 4 boards. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And it's not like HeroQuest where these are blocked off in stone. They're always there. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So like 21 chances to get 3 equipment cards, or a total of 8, I guess, if you use the ones you've got. So I don't know. I'll have to kind of tinker with that. But I like the idea of being able to add a little more interactivity to the quest. So while other people have incorporated innovations from Space Crusade back into HeroQuest, I'm thinking you take stuff from the later game from Space Crusade and put them, you put things from the earlier game, HeroQuest, into the later game, Space Crusade. I just said that backwards before. So, I don't know. Could be interesting. But with these furniture, I mean, they're pretty plain. You can see it's just gray plastic. They do a lot of these terrain crates for fantasy tabletop games. It's just generic, and it's usually brown. So you've got, but I think it's funny how they've done like futuristic versions of the same stuff. So you've got tables, got desks. I think it needs to be painted. At least I don't like to paint the miniatures necessarily. If they're not already painted, I kind of have a nostalgic view for the solid color characters. And it's kind of a board game convention anyway that they're not fully painted. But the furniture feels like it needs some color to it. So that could be like a fuel pod, it could be a clone vat, it could be a generator. Just use your imagination. And these could also be used for objectives too. Like maybe you've got to find this, and so you put it in that room. So, whoops. I'm just forgetting my cameras here. Yeah, I got to get used to having multiple cameras that I can manipulate instead of just a hard camera. Because I'm just learning this stuff, but I appreciate you being here and learning it with me. Again, my goal is to be able to use this for live tabletop gaming, or at least a recording of a tabletop game. So let's say we've got these two. We'll just move this over. Not trying to make anybody dizzy here. But okay, so let's say over here you've got, that can be like an objective. So you've got to find that, and the guy's got to haul it back. Maybe he has less movement while he's hauling it back. I mean, you could come up with all kinds of things. But yeah, these are the, as long as I'm showing these off, these are the Eldar figures. These are the space elves from the Eldar Attack expansion. There we go. So you got these removable weapons, and these are actually a light blue color. They're like a pastel blue. They may look gray on my camera, but that's just because of the lighting. I mean, this is not expensive lighting. But anyway, it's just kind of fun to kind of play around with these ideas. And yeah, you've got these channels where they've got expensive cameras and expensive lighting and, big casts of celebrities, and they've got, makeup on, and it's a big production. This is, I just enjoy doing this. Just kind of having, gaming for the people. One person's idea of gaming. So yeah, the other train crate stuff here, let's take a quick look at it. I thought about just 3D printing this stuff, or maybe buying like Reaper Bones miniature furniture. I mean, there's a lot of ways you could do the same thing that I'm doing now. But I thought the fact that this already exists, and I mean, it had a lot of the things I thought would be useful, it would fit. So you've got little crates, because you always have crates, because that's the easiest thing. In video games, a cube, a 3D game, making a cube is pretty simple, and there's always the jokes about the invulnerable crates. It's like, why don't they make armor out of these crates that'll block laser fire and explosives and everything? But these would just be obstacles. Or maybe that could be like a treasure chest, so to speak. Maybe there's something inside it that you need, that you could find in the mission. Computer terminals could be just background. They could be just broken, because in Space Crusade, I mean, pretty much every dungeon, so to speak, space dungeon, is a space hulk. It's an abandoned ship, or a ship that's been pulled into warp space and then been taken over by these chaos monsters. Like a pirate ship, a ghost ship. And you got to board it, and usually just all you're doing is killing all the monsters in sight and then leaving. But there could be other things you could do just to make it more interesting. So that looks like a bookshelf, doesn't it? It's like a futuristic bookshelf. Maybe they're computer files or something like that. Technical manuals. And it would look more interesting if it was painted. Because really, when you think about it, HeroQuest, yeah, had unpainted miniatures, and they said, well, you could paint them if you want to. You don't have to. There's a weapons rack, except it's got guns. And those kind of look like Space Crusade guns, don't they? Very similar. That almost looks like a bolter or a bolt pistol. These look more like Halo guns, but they could be. So I thought that was neat. It's generic. But yeah, instead of 3D printing it, I mean, this is like hard plastic. This reminds me a lot of the rubbery hard plastic that was used in the HeroQuest remake from 2021, which, as I've said before, is out in retail. People are buying it, reviewing it. And we're still waiting on the Guardian Knights expansion. So GameStop, what they've been doing with my order and many other orders is every 2 months, it'll charge your card if you bought it on a card, and then it'll be pending, awaiting availability, and then it'll just kind of go away and they give you your money back. And then you wait another 2 months for more supplies to come in. But of all the things to complain about, it's not a big deal. It's just that, okay, why did I pre-order from GameStop? I shouldn't have done that. I should have learned my lesson. But there you go. So you got another one of these fuel pods. So yeah, I think this will work really well, and I'm actually excited to paint these. Now some of these came kind of bent up, and that's always the problem with these rubberized miniatures, is that they can be in the package like that, and so you can kind of bend them back into shape, but they don't really stay. So you just boil up some water, and you dip it in there. Don't burn yourself, and you take it out, and then you dip it in some cold water, run some cold water over it after you've posed it back into shape, and then when it dries, hopefully it'll be in a better position. Now these little candy trays annoy me to no end, but actually this is a lot better than the HeroQuest one, because that one from Hasbro, I mean everything was just so tightly packed in that you're like, ugh, and it goes flying across the room. It's just silly. It was so tightly packed in. Whereas this, more or less you can kind of figure out, even if you have no idea what you're doing, you can figure out, okay, that kind of fits there, that kind of fits there, and you can kind of shove it back in the box without too much trouble. And even if you painted these, you wouldn't be super worried that, okay, as I put it in and take it out, it's going to peel the paint off and I'll have to start over. Of course, you want to varnish the stuff anyway. Whoops. Yeah, see, here I am putting stuff away in the wrong spots. These tables were kind of the ones that got bent up the most. And this whole thing was like $30, which I think is kind of expensive, but I mean, they do give you a lot of little pieces. And if you're going to be using them a lot, which I hope to, then it was worthwhile to kind of make the game that more interesting with little set dressing. Because that's the thing about Space Crusade. I mean, it reminds me of HeroQuest quite a bit, but it's much more focused on, and I guess this is a mini review, it's much more focused on dice rolling for combat. You don't have to worry about rolling for movement. You don't draw a ton of cards. I mean, yes, the alien player does draw a card every turn, an alien event, which is interesting because in HeroQuest, Zargon, he could move the monsters around, but otherwise he's pretty much waiting for the players to do stuff. Whereas the alien player, the GM character in Space Crusade, he always gets to draw a card. So something's happening. Whoops. Something's always happening. Maybe he's placing a monster, maybe somebody's gun jammed, maybe there's some new danger happening. So there's always something going on, but it's mostly focused on combat. You're just moving around, you kill all the monsters and then you leave. Yeah, it's kind of boring. I mean, if you want action, okay, but the whole questing aspect, any idea of role playing, it's kind of shoved to the side. I mean, it was minimal in HeroQuest, but at least it was there. So I think by adding a little bit more storytelling, a little bit more exploration, a little bit more discovery into Space Crusade would make it a more interesting game, especially for those who like HeroQuest kind of as their base tabletop fantasy game. And then taking some of the technical stuff from Space Crusade, as many have done, the technical improvements or workarounds, simplifications, whatever you want to call them, taking those improvements and incorporating them back into HeroQuest makes HeroQuest a little more technical, a little more interesting. I still don't like the fixed movement though, but a lot of people use that. So in Space Crusade, every character is fixed movement. There's no roll. Oh, I got a 3. Oh, I got a 2. Oh, I got a 1. I'm sick of this. People get mad when they keep getting bad rolls. It's like, well, it's not the dice's fault. It's just the way it is. Sometimes you get bad rolls. But anyway, it's more accessible than a lot of other tabletop games because some of them are just really complicated. And if you spend too much time studying the rules, you can lose people. If they're not already invested, if they're not willing to play multiple sessions, it can be hard to get that learning curve going. But I mean, these games that I'm showing you here, these were designed for 9, 10, 11-year-olds. I think Space Hulk, it was for 12 and up. But yeah, but adults enjoy them. And I don't have any particular nostalgia for Space Crusade because I didn't grow up with it. I mean, I knew it existed probably by the late 90s because there were advertisements for it in some of the HeroQuest materials. But I mean, I never had a copy. I didn't know anybody that played it. And so it was just kind of like, oh, I wonder what that game is about. And I always assumed it would be too expensive. And it was rather expensive. But I think I got a decent price. And I even found, I was going to reprint the tokens and cards because there were a few missing. And I thought, well, they're not going to match very well. it's really hard to duplicate what they've got because their cards, the official cards, are like matte on one side and smooth on the other, which is a really cool feature. But most professional card printing services will not do that for you. They just don't have that option. So you'd have to do it yourself. It would be almost more trouble than it was worth. But then I found somebody that was selling just those little parts that I needed for a decent price. I thought, okay, fine, I'll get it. I try not to go down the road of being a collector, and it's like you have to have every single thing because it's just a waste of time. If you're not going to play it, yeah, it could be cool to own it, but I'd rather play it. Is my thought. So as you can see before you, this is Warhammer 40,000. Again, I've never played Warhammer 40,000, the game, the actual game, and I'm not one of these people that is invested in the whole hobby of painting miniatures. However, as I've said before, this is the starter kit. This was gifted to me by a family member, and thank you for that. You know who you are. And it's not a complete set. So all the Space Marines are out of there. And there is this killer can, which I still haven't taken out of the shrink wrap, but I plan to someday. I mean, it's this goofy looking contraption. It's like a dreadnought for the bad guys. It's supposed to have Gretchens inside, space goblins. And it's a little walking contraption. So that might be kind of fun to do one from scratch someday. But yeah, these orcs were already somewhat painted. I mean, they had green for the skin, and some of them had like white for the teeth. Maybe their weapon was gray, but other than that, there wasn't a lot. I mean, there's a couple that were almost finished, but mostly I've just been kind of, add in little details here and there. So I'm not a master painter by any means, but it's just kind of something to practice on, something to learn with. And I really had a good time adapting these guys as characters for Space Crusade because I already had them and I wasn't using them. And I thought, well, okay, so this can be a knob. They call that a knob. Let me explain. So I talked about this somewhat in the previous streams. So you got this Ork Mob. Whoa, that's too bright. So this is White Dwarf magazine. And yes, they give you permission to print these out, photocopy. Light's too bright. Just there we go. So they explain these, basically these additional rules for using an Ork Mob. Because of course they want you to buy more Citadel miniatures. All these are Psyker abilities. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff, and they're like, oh yeah, by the way, why don't you buy all these new miniatures, and then you can use these rules. Of course, you could use, but yeah, I just printed this out. But yeah, I'll just read some of it to you. I'm not saying I'm using all of this, but I mean, I did use some of it in that game where I played. So they call them orcs with a K, because the orcs are already part of the game, but they weren't a playable faction for the good guys. They were just controlled by the evil GM character, the Chaos player, the alien player. Orcs are large, green-skinned humanoid creatures with powerful limbs and heavy-jawed heads. They are a brutal race who love war. I'm quoting here. Orc-controlled parts of the galaxy are not very organized or coordinated. There are countless different tribes of orcs, and they all fight amongst themselves, as well as against other races. If you decide to use an orc mob when you're using orcs from a different tribe, to those used by the alien player, and the two tribes are deadly enemies. Okay, so there you go. So they can fight other orcs that you find in the game. Orcs are split into knobs and boys. They always spell things funny. Knobs are orc nobles. Being a knob is not an inherited title. You get to be a knob by being so big and tough that you can order other orcs about. Knobs have the best weapons and armor because they get first pick of any captured booty. Most knobs prefer to use short-range weapons so they can get into hand-to-hand combat with the enemy. Da boys are the rank and file of orc warriors. Boys don't have much armor and are usually armed with the orc's favorite weapon, the bolt gun. Orcs like weapons that make a lot of noise and cause big explosions. A few boys carry heavier weapons, but not very many, as the best gear is usually nicked by the tribe's knobs. Using an orc mob. A Space Marine player can choose to use an Ork Mob instead of a Space Marine squad. An Ork Mob is led by one knob and has 10 boys. And by the way, so I'm quoting from White Dwarf magazine, but I forget which issue this was because I only printed out the pages I needed. But anyway, there's two issues that were in the 90s that were focused on Space Crusade, Advanced Space Crusade, and of course HeroQuest. So they want you to get the magazine, they want you to buy some more miniatures and give you some custom rules to use. So I just use this as inspiration. Okay, so an Ork Mob is led by one Nob and has 10 boys. The Nob is the equivalent of a Space Marine commander and has 6 lives. I think they meant to say 6 life points, but yeah, same thing. You can choose which set of weapons he carries from those listed on the Ork reference sheet. This was their reference sheet, so it's kind of similar to the Space Marine ones, a little card that tells you what weapons they have. Actually, I'll just put that there. Okay. Yes. The rest of the boys carry bolters, just like those used by the Space Marines, except for 2 boys who carry heavy plasma guns. Now, the thing is, with these miniatures, you can just use your imagination and pretend that he's got whatever you want him to have, right? There's nothing that says that the model has to be exactly like what you're wanting to use. Let's get the lighting just right. So he's got some kind of pistol and he's got some kind of axe, right? But that could be anything. And the difference between these Warhammer 40,000 figures or Warhammer Fantasy figures and the actual Space Crusade figures is the Space Crusade ones, unless you were foolish and glued these down, you can fairly easily like remove these and put like different weapons on them. That's the idea anyway. Some people have, removed these little pegs and put like neodyme magnets on there, little rare earth magnets. But these guys, you can't really remove their weapons. They're glued down. There's just no way. So you'd just be like, okay, well, I want this guy. Oh, he's got the exact same weapons. Okay. Well, how about, and then you reach into your bag, and I guess you'll buy more miniatures because that's what they want. So, okay, so this guy's got a chainsaw sword, and a pistol, which looks different than this guy's pistol, and, whatever. But as you can see, these are meant to be knobs. This is from Assault on Black Reach. These are bigger, they're slightly bigger than the other orcs. But anyway, yeah, you choose their weapons from the available list. It's easier to remember if the model actually looks like it, of course. Here's an Orc War Boss. This guy is not included in these rules, but look at him. Look how huge he is. I mean, he's way bigger. He takes up almost 4 squares, even though he's got a round base. But yeah, getting used to the 2 cameras. So he's got a big claw. So I don't use this guy, but I will use one of these larger figures. And then for the boys, I would use like these guys. These guys are more of that size. So, and you can see they're minimally painted. But I mean, I chose to give them like silver guns. I could have given them black guns, or could have been any color. And yeah, they have black armor. It doesn't stand out too well on the camera, but yeah. So anyway, back to these rules. Okay. So the rest of the boys carry bolters, just like those used by the Space Marines, except for the 2 boys who carry heavy plasma guns. Well, what does a heavy plasma gun look like? Well, I guess you could look into the Warhammer Fantasy books, but I'm going to choose to say that is a heavy plasma gun. But I mean, that could be an assault cannon. You could say whatever. In fact, I think in that game I did say that's an assault cannon. So, yeah, it's just, they give you the ideas and you modify them to your liking when you're playing. Because I figure it's a kind of a difficult game. I mean, sudden death can happen anytime. You go into combat and you think you're going to do well. Especially when you get into hand-to-hand combat with an enemy. You roll, they get a higher roll than you, they kill you. And your guy only had 1 life point, so he's dead. And you only have so many characters. So maybe if they give you a little advantage, that's okay. And I guess from Citadel, Games Workshop's point of view, they want you to buy more stuff to give yourself an advantage because you want the game to be easier. But who's to say you have to follow their rules, right? But anyway, just to continue reading on. So more from White Dwarf. Orcs have their own set of equipment and order cards. We've included a set in this issue of White Dwarf. If more than one player wants to be an orc, you'll need to make extra sets of cards. You can photocopy the cards we've provided or buy another copy of the magazine. Orc weapons. The following new weapons can be used by the orcs. All the other weapons used by the orcs have either been described already in this article or in the Space Crusade rulebook. And that is this book here from my set. Okay, let's see. Orc weapons have the same effect as the other weapons, and whenever possible, they are a lot noisier. Heavy plasma gun. The heavy plasma gun is an enormous and very dangerous weapon. Oops, sorry about that. Yeah, it's a very dangerous weapon, similar to an enlarged version of the plasma gun used by Space Marines. The orcs love to use it because the eruption of the superheated gas plasma makes so much noise and causes so much damage. So they got little character building stuff here. An orc armed with a heavy plasma gun may either fire or move. And I think that was a rule that I forgot about when I was doing my very first game. I was having them fire and move, but whatever. It's kind of like Battle Masters. It's like the certain characters, they can fire or move. They can't fire and move on their turn. He may not do both in the same turn. The heavy plasma gun attacks everything in straight line. I think I meant to say in a straight line, just like a normal plasma gun, but gets to roll an extra 2 light weapon dice. That's the white dice because it's so large. Power Claw. Now, that's the Power Claw. None of the characters I'm using has one, but I mean, this guy is just so huge. I hate to just use him, and I could, but anyway. The Power Claw has a ripping and crushing mechanical device that can be used by the Ork Mob. So that's the Ork Mob once again, like the medium-sized guy, same size base. It is the Ork version of the Space Marine Power Glove, may only be used in hand-to-hand combat. Yes, we all love the Power Glove because it's so bad. Nothing to do with Nintendo. I can't remember which came first. But yeah, because the Power Glove for the NES was like in the 80s, late 80s. I don't know. It was overpriced and not that great, but it was a nice idea. Certainly a gimmick. Before motion controls became more perfected, I guess, for console gaming. Anyway, Power Claw. Okay, so I got that done. The Plasma Pistol. The Plasma Pistol is a version of the plasma gun designed for use at short range. It may not be fired at a target that is more than 12 squares away from the Ork Mob, but affects all targets in a straight line up to this range. So I chose to say that that pistol with that little round magazine on there is a bolt. Not a bolt pistol, but a plasma gun. It's actually different than what they portray. I mean, they show in the illustration it looks like some space gun. But just the fact that there were two different designs of a gun, I thought, oh, yeah, that'd be easy to remember. So you have to kind of look closely at the model, and the fact that it's painted makes it a little easier. You got these big, bright, flashy guns. So it's like I'm going to choose to call that a plasma pistol instead of a bolt pistol. Whereas, let's see a good example of a bolt pistol. See the difference there? So you got the two different guns. More of a flat looking pistol versus one with the big round magazine on it. Easy way to differentiate them. But again, it's just your imagination. Anything can represent anything else. But that's what's cool about these games. The miniatures add a little bit. They don't just take the place of imagination. Because it's like, oh, why do I have to have a representation of every single thing? Well, it kind of fuels the imagination. It gets you into the game a little bit more. It's fun. It's fun to move pieces around, not just fun to roll dice. I mean, why roll dice? You could just consult tables, or you could use a calculator. Why flip cards over? Because it's fun. It's fun to do those things. It's fun to use your hands to play the game, to have visual aids, not just all be the imagination. Nothing against that. I mean, I played games completely in the theater of the mind, just using pencil and paper. That's fun too. But sometimes you like doing this, and it merges the sort of appeal of a board game with the appeal of a role-playing game or adventure game. So yeah, those the plasma pistol. So it can shoot through enemies, essentially, is what they're saying. So they've got the heavy plasma gun. You can see those stats, and those are what the combat dice look like for Space Crusade. They're same size as the HeroQuest dice, but they have numbers on them. And actually, the white dice, it's really hard to actually hit anything with them. You know, when I was talking about my homebrew rule for searching for usable equipment in rooms, I was saying if they roll a 1, they find equipment and they get to draw a card. Well, what if you're using a commander or a knob in this case? You could say, well, he gets to roll 1 die, but maybe he can count a 1 or a 2. So that'd be one way to say, well, maybe the commander should be the one searching. So anyway, but you're forfeiting a chance to attack on that character's turn by searching. Anyway, then you've got these red dice, which they have 1, 2, 3 on them, so they have a better chance of scoring a hit. Because in this game, what you're trying to do is you're trying to overwhelm the armor rating of your enemy. So it's different than HeroQuest, where you roll an attack and then they roll defense. It's just they have a number. You roll, and if your number is higher than theirs, you overcome it and do damage, which in most cases means you killed the enemy because they only have 1 life point. Commanders have 6, and enemy dreadnoughts have 3, but otherwise everybody's got 1. And that's similar to the European version of HeroQuest, where like all the bad guys have 1 body point, with rare exceptions. So it makes the game go fast, but it's also sudden death. It's like, he died. You know, in the European version of HeroQuest, even the mercenaries only have 1 body point, whereas in the North American version, they have 2, you know, at the bare minimum. So anyway, and they talk about chain swords here and power claws. So there's a lot of stuff you can do. But getting back to the discussion of the rules here. All right, so plasma pistol. As the pistol is smaller and easier to handle than a plasma gun, the heavy plasma gun, it doesn't allow, whoops, sorry, just a reminder there that I'm getting close to the end of the stream here. As the pistol is smaller and easier to handle than a plasma gun, it doesn't slow the user down like a normal plasma gun would. Let's see, do I have some other notes here? I think that was mainly what I wanted to discuss for that. So I'm using a modified version of White Dwarf's custom rules. And let's just focus the camera now a little bit more onto these miniatures here. As you can see. So these are the guys I painted. Mainly it was just kind of finishing the job that was started by others. You know, you have your painting party and you get these guys. Actually, this camera shows it better. So the first attempt playing with an orc warband, Ork Mob, did not meet with success. The alien player beat these guys out. But you've got various guys here, various examples. So they've got axes, they've got swords. Yeah, adjust the camera. They've got axes, they've got swords. I tried not to use ones that had human skulls on them because I thought, well, they're going to look like they're human allies. Because in the Warhammer 40k lore, they have these orcs that are, sometimes they work with humans. They're called the Blood Axes or the Bloody Axe Clan, tribe, whatever. So you've got some examples there. It was fun to use them, and they look different enough from the regular orcs that they can be differentiated visually pretty easily. And so if we kind of move those guys aside, See, not a lot of detailing on the armor. The original, or the suggestion is that you use, I think, dark brown pants, and they'll have like black and white checkerboard on their podlons and stuff like that. This is kind of like the second squad. These are the guys I didn't use, but I think I might try again and try these guys. So I use the Molotov chrome pen on the guns and parts of the armor. Use a black wash on the white of the skull. That. So not super fancy. And then with this, I mean, I could have used a wash, but it was basically just like a Christmas green, a pine green, and then a lighter green, like dry brushing on the muscles, and then a yellowish green on top of that, and then a clear satin varnish. And I tried to use a kind of metallic black on the armor pieces, and then a flat black on the armor. I mean, on the like the leather or cloth between the bits of armor. But it's really hard to see on this miniature. I mean, you really have to look up to the light in person to really see the difference. So I might play with that and use maybe a different color to differentiate it a little bit. And I was adding details to some of these guys to try to make them look like a red team and a blue team. But I haven't really kept up that idea. I don't know. It would be cool to have two different factions of Ork, because when you're playing Space Crusade, you're competing for points. So that's the other thing. And again, that's similar to European HeroQuest, where you've got the four heroes, and yes, if they work together, they can actually win the quest a lot easier. They work together against the monsters, and they divide up the treasure evenly and all that stuff. But they wouldn't have to. They could compete. They could even fight with one another. You know, if it's a bunch of little boys, a target demographic playing the game, they might not want to work together. They might want to seek all the glory for themselves. And in Space Crusade, it goes that way too. I mean, you've got a couple Space Marine groups or Eldar factions, and they decide, you know what, we're just gonna each do our own thing. Oops, each do our own thing and try to get the most points. These are these space choppers or whatever, futuristic helicopters. It looks like a motorcycle, but there's a blade that goes on top. This came with the set, and I've kind of worked on painting little parts of that, but I have not incorporated this into Space Crusade. But it's all there. These are resources that could be used to spice up the game. Now, if I was playing Warhammer 40,000, that's the kind of dice they use, and I was like, oh, it's Space Crusade. No, it's not, because it's like movement, attack. So it's a totally different kind of die than what's used in Space Crusade. Because Space Crusade has the fixed movement, and then it has the dice for combat, for hand-to-hand combat or ranged combat. Now these are so yeah, that's the source for the orcs, the space orcs that I've been using and plan to use in future instances of Space Crusade. I haven't played it yet with the Space Marines. I want to use it with the Eldar, but I like the idea of having more options. So if I'm playing with a bunch of people, which I want to do rather than just playing against myself, even though it was kind of an interesting challenge, is I want to be able to offer some options. So maybe one person wants to do, they want to be orcs, or they want to be space marines, or they want to be space elves, whatever, Eldar. There's also something called squats. They're like space dwarves. Now this is obviously a Warhammer Fantasy dwarf that I plan to use for Battle Masters, or he could be used in HeroQuest. It's the right size. But the squats are supposed to be the space dwarves for Warhammer 40,000, but apparently they're rare and expensive. So if I use those guys at all, they'll probably be 3D printed. So these are the custom cards that I made based on the White Dwarf stuff. And since they're red, it's a little harder to read on camera, but we've got the frags, stick bombs, and these are just drafts or proofs. Eventually I want to print these as professional cards. So let's see, this is equipment. Battle Frenzy, same way. equipment. And you can look this up online. I mean, this stuff is out there. Daka Daka, that was one I used. So this is an order card. And so that's what it would look like on the other side. Again, I just adapted this. I mean, I made this red version of the green marine cards, and Eldar used blue. So I thought red would make it visually different, kind of interesting. So that's an order. Bionic bits, so that's equipment. So that's kind of the template. And eventually I'm going to have all these looking like that with a front and a back. You know, one side is the story version, the other side is the gameplay version. Pain Boy. So that's equipment, I think. Yeah, because you order yourself to be healed. No, it's healing equipment. Custom weapon, equipment, bolt pistols, equipment, power armor, equipment, freebooter. It's like a pirate. But see, having a bunch of pirate orcs that you're fighting in the mission would be cool. So whether these orcs are NPCs or player characters, I think they could add a little spice to the game. Warg, so that's an order. Get to gets, that's an order. Get a Zagan move on, that's an order. Now veteran players would know the difference. I forget if this one is an order or equipment. This might be 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, it's supposed to be 8 orders, or I mean 8 equipment and 4 orders. Okay, yeah, that's how it works. So just like the Space Marines. And usually what you would do is when you start off, you would get 1 order. So you just pick the one you want. And then you would get, I think, 4 equipments. But then as you go up in rank, okay, you might have 5 or 6. But with the Homebrew searching rule I was thinking of, you would draw one of these, ones that you didn't pick, if you rolled the right die for equipment. And I would say each room can only be searched once. So if one faction searches a room, tough luck. Other factions, you don't get to search it. But I'm still working on that Homebrew rule, trying to come up with something that's fun, interesting, not too overpowered. Okay, so we don't have much time left. So yeah, sorry about the alarm there. The reason I set that alarm is because I don't want to go overtime, because I know that I can just kind of talk and let the time get away from me. So what we're going to do now is I'm just quickly going to read out some of these Space Crusade story bits that I did not cover in my unboxing, because I read out all of the HeroQuest ones and I enjoyed doing that. Some people enjoyed it with me. That's fine. So we got the rule book, which the rule book really doesn't have a whole lot in there. It has these little comics at the bottom that kind of give a little bit of a story. But I think we'll save that for another time. You know, it's like you're reading the rules and it'll give these little story bits and this illustrations, kind of like a sample mission. It's supposed to be these Space Marines go on a mission to investigate a Space Hulk and they all get killed, presumably. And then you go in and try to succeed where they failed. But the real stories occur in these other books. And I do not have Mission Dreadnought, but apparently it doesn't have any story to it. Not really. There's the Eldar Attack book. I'll just zoom out a little bit. Okay, so the Eldar Attack book. And then this mission book. So we'll read the mission book to you. This is from Space Crusade, once again, from the makers of HeroQuest. The Imperium. And all of you Warhammer 40,000 fans can see that there's obviously a lot of inspiration drawn here, but it's not necessarily the same universe if you don't want it to be. It can be as little or as much as you want to incorporate into your personal game. So it's not like you have to track down all these expensive Warhammer books and memorize them. Because even in those books, I mean, Games Workshop, they flat out say, you know, you do what you want. You create your own universe. If you want to modify ours or make up your own stuff, go right ahead. As long as the people you're playing with agree upon it, then that's cool. And I agree with that philosophy. I like that free floating, modify to your liking style of board game, and it's much easier than modifying a video game where you actually got to edit the code or change the files around, make new artwork. This is much easier. So, the Imperium. More than 25 millennia ago, mankind took the first tentative steps to the stars. With the discovery of the warp drive came the Great Expansion. What was once a journey of several centuries became a journey of several days. Warp space. Warp space is the parallel universe through which the starships may jump, traveling hundreds of thousands of light years in a few hours. Warp space is also the domain of chaos. In warp space, nothing may be taken for granted. It is a universe filled with cross currents, eddies, and whirlpools of power. Ships have disappeared without reason and emerged from the warp centuries after they entered it, millions of light years from their destination. These derelict starships, distorted beyond all recognition, are known as space hulks. And yes, the game that came out before Space Crusade was called Space Hulk, which I've never played, but it's like a makeshift modular dungeon game, similar to, I guess, Advanced HeroQuest or Advanced Space Crusade. Yes, there was Advanced Space Crusade. Now, those games are even more rare than this one, so good luck finding one for a decent price. But actually, Space Hulk, I think, was more popular because they released multiple editions. I think the last one came out like 2014 or something. So it does have a fan base. But if you want to track down like the original version, I mean, good luck with that. The Age of Strife. During the Great Expansion, man reached ever further into the stars. In time, the hidden power of the warp came to be noticed. By entering warp space, man had awoken an ancient evil. The minions of chaos had escaped the warp. The first great war, known as the Age of Strife, had begun. For more than 5,000 years, warfare racked mankind. Nation battled with nation. Planet fought planet. System destroyed system. Abandoned colonies perished by the scores, whilst aliens plundered and grew fat on the wreck of humanity. Then came a savior. The Age of Strife, arguably the greatest time of peril man has ever faced, brought forth the greatest man history has recorded. The man who would be known as the Emperor of Human Space. A shrewd diplomat, he gathered the fragments of human society and formed them into the Empire. A brilliant soldier, he conquered and reclaimed the worlds lost to chaos. For this task, he created the Space Marines, the greatest warriors of all. So you got your illustrations there. Presumably taken from 40K. Used to be known as Rogue Trader. That was 1987, the first version. This game is from 1990. The Space Marines, the Legiones Astartes, not pronouncing that right, but whatever, is the official title of the warrior organization known as the Space Marines. Its warriors are acknowledged as the most powerful and feared fighting men in the Imperium. In numerical terms, the Space Marines are a small force, but their superhuman ability and fearsome reputation make them worth many times their own number in conventional troops. They are held in awe throughout the Empire. So you can see the influence of other earlier fictions like Dune and Starship Troopers on this sort of thing, which, all good games draw from fiction and legend and everything that's popular that people like, because what you do is you read the story and then you're like, now I want to be part of this story. I want to play around in the world that was introduced to me, take part. The Space Marines are organized into self-contained chapters, each with its own fleet. A chapter's fleet provides accommodation, training facilities, machine shops, armories, shuttle silos, and every other facility the chapter requires. The fleet roams the galaxy in pursuit of the enemies of mankind. Task forces break away from it for individual missions or campaigns and rejoin the fleet when their mission is accomplished. They look a lot like Dark Troopers from Star Wars Dark Forces, don't they? Or before that, like Stormtroopers. And there is a lot of influence of Star Wars, Star Trek, Aliens, Terminator on this. And yes, they even have like super soldiers in Warhammer 40,000 called Space Marine Terminators. But they're supposed to be humans inside powered armor. Space Marine equipment. Space Marines have access to the full range of Imperial weaponry and equipment. The distinctive Space Marine powered armor protects them in all environments and is capable of withstanding direct hits from all but the most powerful weapons. The standard Space Marine weapon is the bolt gun, or the bolter. This is a devastating automatic weapon which fires a hail of small caliber explosive shells. The main close assault weapon is the bolt pistol, a smaller version of the bolter that because of its size is ideal for hand-to-hand fighting. The Space Marines also have a small number of heavy weapons that may be employed when greater firepower is needed for a mission. So the way they explain that hand-to-hand stuff is there's a little bayonet or blade on the end of their little bitty machine gun. There's the missile launcher, assault cannon, plasma gun. So I'm not going to read all of this because this would be another read through and it would take a lot longer than I have time for, but I'm going to go ahead and finish this part up and we'll read the Eldar attack at another time. So sorry for not talking more about HeroQuest on this particular stream, but I did want to kind of cover these things, which I didn't get to in the unboxing. Assaulting Space Hulks. I actually read a version of this when I did the playthrough with the orcs. Just a flaw in the paper there. Okay. Assaulting Space Hulks. A common assault procedure is as follows. 1. The mothership launches one or more assault vessels towards the alien starship. Once alongside, a number of docking claws extend from the assault vessels and grab the side of the alien ship. The powerful claws tear into the alien ship and pull the assault vessel into the attack position. Of course, now all the stuff they're describing, this doesn't happen in real time in the game. It's just, okay, there's a little room that clips onto the side of the board where your guys start in, and that's supposed to be explaining why they're there and what they're doing. 2. Probes which pierce the skin of the alien ship are then extended from the claws. Each probe has within it a passageway through which the Space Marines attack. Once this has punctured the alien ship and been made airtight, the blast doors are opened and the Space Marines assault the alien ship. So it kind of reminds you of the start of Star Wars, aka Episode 1 A New Hope. Although you don't see all that happen, but I mean, you see the stormtroopers break in and start attacking. Of course, in that one, they're the bad guys. 3. The Space Marine squad is expected to move fast and accomplish the set mission. Now, every time they say Space Marine, I can't help thinking of like Quake, Quake 2, those video games. But really, I mean, they're all drawing from similar lore, so they're copying all the way back. So it's just kind of fun to see how they imitate each other. Or like the Spartans and Halo. Or another game that reminds me a lot of this is StarCraft. You got Warcraft, you got StarCraft. Clearly, there's inspiration, a line of inspiration in the fiction. 3. The Space Marine squad is expected to move fast and accomplish the set mission. Once the mission has been accomplished, the Space Marines make their way back to the docking claw. So it's kind of like in HeroQuest when they rush back to the stairs. With all the Space Marines back on the assault ship, the docking claws release the alien ship and assault vessel returns to the mothership. Okay, and then it talks about the campaign game. The most exciting way to play Space Crusade is as a series of games. So I'm not going to get into all this because I'm short on time. But maybe one day I'll do a full read through of this. Probably the most boring read through would be the Battle Masters book because it's so technical. And yeah, James Rolfe made fun of that and Board James, but yeah. I'm trying to go beyond just making fun of the game or making little quips, reacting to it. Since this is a game that I didn't grow up playing, I want to actually learn it, actually play it, see some of the mods other people have created, and then, of course, make my own mods. Because I'm not claiming to be, an expert on this stuff. HeroQuest, I feel like I have a pretty good handle on, because I actually did grow up playing that, even though there was a gap between, the late 90s and 2010s when I kind of rediscovered it. But yeah, Space Crusade, catching up on 30 years of nostalgia and mods and all that kind of stuff. But I like playing games. And because of the lockdowns, it's been kind of hard to do that. So I've tried to make do with playing virtually, or in this case, playing against myself, which I didn't think would be fun, but actually it was kind of fun. It's a challenge, but it's always best to play with people. So thanks for everybody for joining in, for checking us out. If you're watching on YouTube, of course, it's not live. Spoilers. But this will be going on the XSC3 home of HeroQuestFans on YouTube, which I hope you will subscribe. We don't do this for money. We just do it for fun. And we'll grow our little community here. And also check us out on Discord. I do post frequently on yeoldin.com. That's old with an E at the end. Ye, Y-E-O-L-D-E HeroQuestFans.com on forums. Mostly about HeroQuest, but also about related games. So Space Crusade, Battle Masters. So far, that's all. I don't think I'm going to be getting into any of the advanced games because they're just too rare. They're too expensive. And this is kind of enough to tide me over when I'm not playing video games or reading whatever. So everybody have a good rest of your day, and we will try, if possible, to do another stream tomorrow. What it's going to be about, we'll have to see. I had a good time doing the live reading of the Dave Morris novel, so maybe we'll do another one of those, depending on how much time we have. We could do another playthrough of this, but I don't know. I have a feeling certain people are kind of getting tired of Space Crusade right now, so maybe we could take a break from that. I wish HeroQuest was as easy to play solo, but I don't have a mobile device to do the companion app, and the companion app leaves a lot to be desired anyway, but we'll see. So check us out tomorrow. Everybody take care, stay safe, and we'll see you next time on HeroQuest Fans. Thanks for joining us. And cheers to all the people who checked us out today. So another TV viewer, Graphamo, Caxips06, Lurks with 2 X's, Ortho Duck, and The Strange Bus. Thanks for checking us out, guys, and good luck with your streams as well. Okay, yeah, sorry, just comments section. I wasn't reading the comments live. I apologize. Yeah, The Strange Bus wants to discuss HeroQuest. We can certainly do that, my friend. Happy to do that. And hey, who knows? You're a streamer too, so maybe we could collaborate sometime if you're interested. All right, everybody take care. See you next time.